So we're here with Tom Williams. Back with Tom.
Hey Simon, welcome.
Hey, thank you very much for letting us come into your new studio.
That's all right. Welcome. Yeah. It's been a sanctuary during lockdown, so it's good to be not going crazy and being able to go crazy here and build stuff.
So do you want to just tell us what we're doing here? So this is the trolley we all know and love from the previous video. Now you've been working on a brand new top for this.
It's a whole new cart basically, version 3.0.
Okay, let's talk it through. What was wrong with this trolley?
Well, so I've done a couple of films on this now and a TV series, and I got very sore essentially. You know, I'm sat down, kind of arched over.
Yeah, that's a bit.
Like, give you an example. So, you know, I'm obviously this is a bit too high, but essentially I'm like all huckered over like this. Kind of, it felt right to have the screens right next to my faders, and my script was here in this little sort of triangle where I'm in the zone.
Yeah.
But I was in a lot of pain after a few long form jobs, and just sort of needed to start afresh and work with some new ergonomics. So I kind of came up with this, which is not, as you see, isn't finished. This is just work in progress. Hence everything's kind of balanced here. But what would you like to know?
Well, so what have you managed to do with the screens then? So I see the screens in a different position. Is that the main sort of twist for this new build?
Yeah. So I suppose what's going on here is it kind of came about that with the Cantar X3 and the Cantaress, because you've got this big screen here, I can have my metering here. I can have my radio mic telemetry here. So as soon as you've got your radio mic telemetry on a screen, it means that you don't actually need to be looking at your radio mic receivers. So I I thought, why not hide them away? So they all kind of sit in behind there. Obviously not fully loaded at the minute, but I've got 16 channels of radio mics there. We'll be using, as before, audio A10s. I've got some Wisycom and Lectrosonics. And then this screen, which is an absolute beauty, is I believe it's a dual 10-inch, but because it oversails the rack ears, it's my Datavideo, it means that you get that extra width, which means your screen size can be a bit bigger. It's also great because it's got on friction hinges, so you can angle it where you want it.
So you no longer really need to be looking at the displays on your receivers.
That's the plan anyway. Yeah.
And it will all just be coming on this big display here.
Yeah, it'll be basically the telemetry will be on here.
Yeah.
There's a few little things that need to be ironed out, but generally that's the idea. And I'm building this as a top unit, so this will be on a separate base that I haven't designed yet. But the idea being is that on my old cart, the wheels were, I don't know if you can see, but the wheels stick out quite a long way, and you've got basically a 19-inch rack width, plus the extra aluminium, plus the wheels. So getting through doors, that kind of stuff, has always been a little bit tricky. So the idea is that with this, the wheels will sit within the framework, which is great.
And will you be able to stand and work at this?
Yeah. So I haven't really designed it yet, but I'm kind of looking at what Tim White and Simon Bishop have done with their very clever Stuart Ebbs linear actuator system, and sort of trying to do my own twist on it.
Do you need to use that for the van to get it in and out of the van? Would it have to kind of shrink to get into some places?
Yes, exactly. I mean, the idea being that however it's done, I'm not sure yet, but it will collapse down. And then I'll be able to open it back up again and have it at a standing height or a sitting height.
Yeah. So can you talk a bit about how you actually built this? Because you made and cut all of these aluminium ends.
Yeah. So I mean, this system isn't new. You know, there's an awful lot of people using it, and it's really flexible, and it's like super strong. So it's 20 by 20. It's Rexroth Bosch profile, but there's lots of companies making it. I think URSA sell it over here in the UK and a lot of places in Germany. You basically measure it all up. I'll show you here. So I sort of started dabbling around with CAD. So this is Rhino 3D, and essentially I've managed to build it all in the computer to scale, and then I can extrapolate when I'm happy with the ergonomics. I can then extrapolate that information and create a cutting list. So I've got, I've got a cutting list here, just from printout, and kind of gone through and chopped it all on a chop saw.
Yeah.
And then with all these kind of assembly components, just bolted it all together. And this is all off the shelf stuff from RS. So yeah, and then these are quite cool. These are this is all a little bit balanced, but I'm just going to take this apart slightly and show you what's going on here. So bear with us. I'll move this chap over here. So yeah, what we've got here is locking sliders. So these draw runners lock out and lock in, which is fantastic. So because the thing about my old cart was you're transporting it and the drawer kind of just slides out and falls around all over the place. So I thought that could be improved. So yeah, there's going to be a shelf with a Cantar on it, which will be totally open frame, so I can actually pull it right out and get to all sides of it, which again, an improvement from this system, which is all bag based, which has its advantages. But now I'm fortunate enough to have two X3s. So one will be living in a bag and will be a total duplicate of the main machine that's on the cart. So I'll be in a situation to have a run and gun kind of bag if I need to, or have a backup machine if there was a problem. Yeah. So yeah, this if you spin it around, you can kind of see what's going on here. So it's essentially 20 by 40 profile, all these little kind of brackets and stuff, just all bolts together with an Allen key, and is super rigid. This is going to be a sliding shelf that has a laptop on it, and that will kind of.
Let's have a look at the back and all of the
stowaway there. So yeah, I'm currently in the middle of doing this over the last couple of days, but because if I actually hang on, let me just turn it around to there. So essentially, everything's running through DANTE now. So these 16 channels of radios will be just on an Ethernet cable. That which will be going into the Cantar through this switch.
This is all very new to have things.
What's amazing, as soon as you get rid of all those cables inside, and you've literally just got one Ethernet cable. So the Cantar, as it stands, will have an Ethernet cable going into it. It will have power and then have a loom for line outputs. But then I've also got the option to have all my analog outputs ready to go separately. So normally I won't. My normal mode of working is two wireless booms and all the wireless radios. So I'll be able to have everything. Not have anything plugged in. So it will be very kind of like ready to go without any of this used. But essentially, I'll have got all my analog inputs here, mics and lines, couple of power ins, because it's going to be quite a thirsty cart with power, because there's quite a lot of stuff.
And on this side, you've got your RFs for, is that your receiver rack? And then also comms? Or?
Yeah, so these will chain together for RF, which will provide power for antennas. This little Wisycom box here, which you probably can't see very well, is a combiner. Okay. So essentially, that will take two sets of antennas into this rack. So what that means is using these drums. It's 100 meters of very low loss 50 ohm cable.
Blimey. You can use 50 meters.
100 meters.
That's 100 meters of BNC, not BNC. Well, I suppose it is. It's BNC aerial extension cable.
Yeah. So I can run 100 with the Wisycom paddle antennas. I've got I think 27 dB of gain, so I can actually have those running to unity gain into the rack, and they can be 100 meters away plus essentially. But also running through this, I can have one set of antennas 100 meters away, and I can have a second set of antennas 20 meters away. So if you're doing a shot where you're on a really long street, for example, you can have a set of antennas at one end, a set of antennas at the other, and you can cover a much larger playing field, which is really good. And that all works through the same input ultimately. Is that all going through the Wisycom? Yes, I've got two. I've got RFA left and right, RFB left and right. So two sets
And that all goes through this box.
All goes through that box into the rack.
Then goes into the rack.
And these are chained together. So
sweet. So what's the name of this Wisycom thing again?
I can't remember. It's a passive box. The CSA 221.
I hope we're not giving away any secrets, but this is something that Stuart Wilson used on 1917.
They used a much more complicated and well thought out system. The problem with this, although it's dinky and it's it's a powerful bit of kit, it's passive, so you've got 4 dB of loss running through that. So
I see. Okay.
You have to kind of put that into the calculations. That cable, if it was going straight in, I could run 130 meters.
Right.
But because I'm running through this, I have to compensate for that.
Right.
So yeah, that's that.
Cool.
And that's just the way that I think a lot of us are working, is having our antennas separate.
These days, COVID, you're going to need to be far away from the action, even
Very
further
true.
north. What about receivers for your crew and transmitters for your team and stuff? Has that changed at all from the original trolley?
No, it's just a lot neater. So what I had before was I was running the Sennheiser dual transmitter, IM transmitter. So I've got the same thing here.
Good. So, do you mind turning it around so you see the front of that? So that there's the Sennheiser dual.
It's a G4 version.
It does a left and a right feed, doesn't it?
Left and a right feed. Yeah. I suppose the difference, the one little special thing I've kind of refined a little bit here is, how do I even begin to describe this? So the scenario is turn up on set and you plug into video playback, and you've got a cable running from sending a mix from you into video playback. That's then sending from a transmitter out to all the grown-ups. So standard way of working. What I like to do is I have a back-to-back cable, so I'm a send and a return to video. So my mix is going out to Video Village, not Video Village, out to the video playback, then it's coming back to me, and then I'm sending it up an antenna mast from this IM transmitter, sending it out to the director and etc. So that's great and everything, until you get to that scenario where you end up where video end up not putting it into live mode. That's a very classic example. And then everyone's screaming, there's no sound, I can't hear anything. And you're kind of going, it's nothing to do with me. That's someone else. By what I designed originally was this box, which is pretty old and knackered now. But what this is a switch, which it stays in playback mode most of the time. My mix goes into it. It then splits it. It sends a feed to video playback. It also sends a feed when it's in live. It sends the same feed out to the transmitter. Yeah, but when it's in playback, it's got a loop. It cuts the live feed and it takes the loop feed that's going out to the video playback rig. So when it's in this mode, it's looping through video playback, which they then switch between live and playback. So that's how it normally stays. But what it's great is you suddenly get a panic where there's no sound in any of the cans. You flick to live, and then it's still sending to video, but you bypass the return. Yeah,
which might just have no sound on it. Or,
exactly, and another really great thing is during setup, where you're in a situation where your feed sounds fantastic, it's well calibrated, the levels are good, and when you listen to what's coming straight out of your car, it sounds brilliant. And then once you go through some shonky video playback rig, you end up with a kind of electronic noises, ground loops. You end up with kind of miscalibration of audio, so that they've knocked the level right down or up on some kind of shonky sound card they've got going into a laptop. And you're kind of being judged on that sound, even though it's not your sound. It's going through their rig and it's getting degraded. So most of the time it can be sorted out and it can sound fine, but so often they're not interested in it, or it's just they're thinking about something entirely different. But it's just one of those things that you're getting judged as a sound mixer on the sound that the director's hearing, as you'd imagine would be the case. So by having this switch, you can, when you set up, you can A/B between live and playback, and you can actually calibrate the headset and check that your signal through their rig is sounding the same as it should compared to your live signal. So that was like Mark 1.
That was on the trolley too.
This was
right?
on my cart, and I've been
Yeah.
using this successfully for about 3 or 4 jobs now.
Yeah.
It's been dropped several times. It's, you know,
on the
it's
inside again?
it's essentially it's a mic split, and it's a it's a switch.
And let's see the back. So yeah.
So you got mix in,
Yeah.
mix out, and then you've got a loop, feed and return, going to video.
Okay.
So that's Mark 1, and that that has worked really well, and everyone's like, oh, that's a great idea, that's a really good idea. But it's kind of in a big box and a bit kind of shitty looking, although it's worked beautifully so far. So I kind of sort of developed it a bit, and what I've done here, work in progress, it's a line split from Studio Spares, and I've taken it apart and rewired it, and I've now got video feed and return, which is my loop to video, and then I've got my in from the X3 and out to my transmitter, and then on the end of this cable is the live and playback switch.
Right. So on the front of your trolley now, you can do that switch just through a new box, which is much more well fitted.
Yeah, it's just, exactly. It's just much more well fitted. It's just a live playback on there.
Let's have a look at that. Live and playback.
So this is actually going to be behind an aluminium panel eventually, I think.
What is? Oh, and that's your backup recorder there. I guess.
It's a little backup recorder just to keep recording all day. Yeah, just to and that's time coded as well. And then got the Master Lockit in here, which is kind of my ACN network hub.
Do you use the notes for ACN as well? Do you use that?
I don't. I haven't really got into that.
Yeah. So do you have written notes, or do you still do paper notes, or do you?
No, I do notes on the X3.
You do notes.
So everything.
And then that exports like a PDF sound sheet or.
Yeah, exactly. You've got lots of different options with how to export it, but yeah. So that's kind of that. This is going to have the big master plan, and again, hopefully you're going to come back and talk to me a bit later when it's a bit further down the line.
Video 1 of part 1 of 2. Hopefully.
This is going to have a like an aluminium tambour that folds over the front. So the idea is that there's side cheeks on here, which I think might be carbon fibre, if I can afford it, which will keep everything enclosed, and then on these are going to have a kind of curves around here, like that, and then this tambour is going to just roll over the top and touch down onto here, keeping the monitors safe and keeping it all protected. I've also got some fans I'm putting in, so I'm going to put some cooling fans in, which will have a manual control to just basically blow air through the rack, because that's going to get pretty toasty, I think. Yeah.
Well, there's a big machine in this new studio of yours, which is we haven't looked at yet.
Yeah. So this is me and my colleague have built this bad boy, which is it's made by Ooznest. It's a CNC router. So basically, it's a palm router that is on an X, Y, and Z axis, and you send it G-code from Fusion 360 or whatever CAM software you're using, and then you can you can basically cut foam, you can cut MDF or ply. Or
can you show us something that you've cut from this?
We haven't really. Literally, it's just we finished building it kind of a week ago. Okay. We've just literally done a cut in some aluminium here, just as a test.
Yeah,
I mean, it's nothing.
So you're going to be
but
what part of the new trolley is going to be cut from this?
I think the plan is to cut the side panels, which are going to be out of carbon fibre, which will hopefully have fan vents in. Yeah, you can see, because due to the magic of editing, hopefully we'll jump back to a new cart. But I think carbon fibre side panels. Yeah. This is going to have an aluminium tray, custom tray on the top. So with a little lip on it, so I can use that to put bits and bobs on. Oh, I'm also another thing to mention is with DANTE you can run power over Ethernet. So essentially I can have there's a whole load of different devices that can be powered via the Ethernet cable you feed them with. So I can have something by the director, which allows them to monitor and that kind of thing. It'll go to the speakers. I can literally just throw that out on the end of an Ethernet cable. So I'm going to be putting a power over Ethernet injector in here as well.
What is that? I really don't know what that is. Why would you need a power on the end of an Ethernet cable?
Well, if you have a breakout box, for example, which has, say, 8 channels of audio, or actually DANTE hopefully is going to start doing video as well. That's quite a new thing that I don't think any companies have started building devices with that in yet, but essentially there might be a time in the future where you end up with video and audio everything running down just one cable, which would be great. But having the power feed down there is really, really useful, because it just allows you to not have to worry about having a battery, or finding a main socket to plug something in. You can just run out 100 meters of Ethernet cable, plug it in, and then it all lights up and works.
The extension receiver box, or the
whatever it is.
Your power.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at the moment, Simon. It's all kind of early days, but this is my workshop. Got a bandsaw, got my extraction wired into the bench, got my milling machine.
This is really cool. Now, are you going to be doing anything else for in here that maybe other people can make use of if they, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's the beginnings of an idea. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of very technically minded people out there that want to build cool gadgets, don't have a space to do it, can't really do it at home, haven't got the machines and the space. And me and my colleague are thinking about setting up a kind of makerspace type thing, where we can perhaps have, for example, my battery charging case that you might have seen in the last video. Not something necessarily that complicated, but the idea of creating a downsized version of that, or creating a DIT case with integrated UPS and cooling, for example. Lots of kind of Pelican-based box products that you can kind of neatly kind of fit out. And with the CNC, we should be able to actually we're looking at getting a laser cutter for that as well, which is pretty cool. And we're looking at getting a 3D printer. So yeah, watch this space. We'll see. Brilliant.
Well, yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Tom.
No worries. Thanks for coming down.
Cheers. And hopefully we'll see you again in part 2, where we get to see the finished item. Right?
I hope so too. Hopefully I'm not surrounded by a pile of aluminium crying, which might happen. So we'll see.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks, Simon.
Thanks
Cheers.
so much. Bye.